Behold, he cometh with the clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which perceived him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, Amen. January 12th, 10 o'clock p.m. Cue the hysteria. Thick ribbons of dark red blood melded with the floodwater. A dozen or more survivors struggled to stay afloat inside the cramped locker room. Some tried to swim away from the carnage, away from the creatures, but they didn't get far. Kevin never made it back to the surface. The children never even had a chance to scream. The widow fought with 3-foot-long leeches attached to her vocal cords. And I had to act. I had to act. I remembered that the pock-marketed scaffolding outside the room provided some relief from the flood. If I opened the door, I thought, maybe we could evacuate the existing water in the room. "We need to open the door!" I shouted breathlessly over my shoulder to anyone who would listen. "Somebody help me!" But only Tiffany and Jake could follow. The three of us struggled with the jam handle for a moment. The water made it almost impossible to open. Just as something slimy brushed against my leg, we pushed it free, and my plan worked in a beautifully chaotic fashion. An avalanche of briny water, broken bodies, and enormous leeches flew out into the open scaffolding. I wrapped my hand onto the railing. I just had to hold on. My fellow survivors did not die quietly. Most of them slipped over the edge screaming. Some of them bumped me in the side on their way down. I know, for instance, that Ellen was alive before the fall. Her panicked brown eyes reached out to me, hopefully, just before she lost her grip. I tried to reach my hand out to help, but I had to survive. She dropped unceremoniously into the ocean of boxes below the scaffolding and landed with a sickening splash at the intersection of aisle 6. She didn't splash. She didn't resurface. But another thick ribbon of blood confirmed my suspicions. I did not see the children die. I thank God for that and that alone. Because Jake did. Jake swore he still heard the children crying, well into the night. January 13th, 1:45 a.m. 3 survivors sat on the scaffolding above Costco. We looked and felt like a trio of waterlogged rats, with the hopeless remnants of a catastrophe. The building appeared to be quiet. There were still the usual sounds. Rainwater dripping in through the roof, the walls creaking uneasily. The power struggled for a little while longer, but the lights gave way sometime around midnight. It was dark then, and then we could hear everything, even the things we didn't want to hear. "What now?" Tiffany asked in between frightened sobs. "What in the frozen fucking hell are we supposed to do now?" I shrugged despondently and pulled my cell phone from my pocket. The slick black screen seemed foreign, like the remnant of some age where things made sense. I clicked the home button. Amazingly, it worked. "I'm gonna write this down," I started. "You know what I think?" Jake interrupted. "I think they're watching us. I think you could type away on that cell phone all fucking night, kid. It won't make one lick of difference by morning. This is God's doing." He spit lazily into the ocean below us. He then tilted his head in the direction of the cross on my neck. I didn't even realize I still had it on. "You know that? A good Catholic kid like you. God gets his due. God always gets his due." It was the first thing I typed. "What do you mean by they?" Tiffany asked. She was crying now, openly. Her sobs filled the void. "Why would God want to hurt us? Why would anyone want to hurt us? I didn't do anything wrong." I didn't want to die in there. I don't want to die tonight. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person! Convulsions overtook her tiny little body as she shook in place. I wrapped my arms around her shoulders and pulled her close. Her cries started to die down. Honestly, man, the way that we treat this planet, we toss our shit in the rivers and our rivers in the shitters, and then we wonder why islands are drowning. Past time God hits the reset button. Jake laughed at his own stupid joke. It's past fucking time. He still needs us, right? There's no fucking game without player 1 and player 2, right? You can't continue. He slammed the scaffolding in anger. Stop it, man. She's had enough. I snapped angrily. Just walk into the light. Tiffany whispered low. So low I could only hear. Just walk into the light. I wanted to ask her what she meant. I wanted to ask what she knew about the light. But the scaffolding started to shake again. The three of us sat up violently and gripped the railing. Somebody was walking. No. I muttered as footsteps started to reverberate somewhere on the other end. Please, God, no. We couldn't see a thing. The entire warehouse remained without light. The scaffolding continued to shake a few moments. Jake got to his feet and stood in front of us protectively. The footsteps stopped. They paused a few yards into the black abyss ahead. Who's there? Jake asked. Mitchell, if that's you, you're not fucking welcome here, man. We know what you did. You're an animal. Get the fuck away from us. Nobody replied. Mitchell, I'm serious. We're armed. Jake turned back at me and shrugged. I started to say something back. But just as suddenly as they arrived, the footsteps turned into a sprint. The scaffolding shook so severely I had to hold Tiffany just to keep her from falling over the edge. Everything happened so suddenly. In seconds, the steps reached Jake. I wanted to get up to help him, but doing so would have assuredly sent Tiffany into the water. I could not see the shape in front of him. I could not see anything of the struggle that ensued. But I could see the axe slip into his head. Jake turned to face us. I'll never forget the dumbfounded expression on his face. Several inches of sharpened metal stuck out of the gaping wound right in his forehead. But the poor guy still managed to make his facial features appear surprised. I mumbled something to him. I think I told him that it would be okay. I didn't know what the fuck to say. A moment later, the shape behind Jake pushed his body and slipped on the wet floor. He flipped over the 4-foot-high railings and fell to his death in the warehouse below. Mitchell appeared in front of our eyes, and he laughed. In spite of everything, in spite of the outright murder of my friends, in spite of my horrible depravity of the things he did, in spite of the absurd fucking storm that he could have caused, that sick motherfucker laughed. Anger bubbled inside me like a virus. It was something about the tone of that laugh, the absolute lack of empathy set me on fire. Tiffany whispered something in my ear, but I couldn't hear anything anymore. I could see the scaffolding start to slip and dip dangerously, but it didn't register quite right. The only emotion that consumed me in that moment seemed to be my fury. I launched myself at Mitchell like a lion. In seconds, my hands were around his stubble-stained neck, and my knees were up against his chest. I slammed his head into the pock-marked floor over and over again. Blood seeped out of his mouth like a leaky faucet, but the man just continued to laugh. I punched him in the face. He was old. He withered easily to my blows. I broke his teeth, and then his nose, and I hit him until both of my own fists were bleeding. But Mitchell just kept laughing. Good boy, he croaked through a cracking voice. Good boy. You become chaos. I delivered one more satisfying uppercut to Mitchell's cheekbone and tossed him over the edge of the walkway like discarded trash. He landed with a satisfying smack. And then the scaffolding started to dip. I heard Tiffany scream. One last time, right before she fell. I saw her hand find purchase on the railing while her body drifted like a rag doll. 20 feet higher than the tallest aisle sign. That one moment of hope reinvigorated me. I rushed over to her, dove down, and reached out to grab the falling blonde, just like I'd seen in my favorite action scenes. But our hands didn't clasp perfectly. I didn't pull her up to safety and save her life. Tiffany fell from 50 feet above the ground and landed on top of the aisle marker in dairy. She died instantly. 4:30. Alone in the darkness, the monsters will surely find me. And then they will see. I will make them see. I wrote that down shortly before the sun rose on January 13th. I thought it might be my sign-off. The flood of water receded slowly over the hours. I couldn't see it from my spawn on the remaining scaffolding, but I could hear it. The sensation seemed similar to someone pulling the plug on the bottom of a massive tub. I wondered what horrors awaited me once the water went away. What could be left? Extreme heat? Desert-like conditions and dried-up milk cartons? I knew I wanted to die. I welcomed the idea more than any other possibility. My feet dangled over the edge like a child on a swing set. I knew it would end with a jump. I just wanted to write it all down first. I wanted someone to see. Quite suddenly, a voice cracked over the loudspeaker. The man spoke with a patient southern drawl. He paid no mind to my impending fate. He spoke as if there were an audience of 100 shoppers listening. Thank you for coming to Costco. This has been a test of your emergency readiness. The simulation between chaos and order is now ended. The candidate has been recognized and recorded. We kindly ask all remaining customers to proceed into the light. I don't know what happened next. I'll never know because I never wrote it down. Sometimes I remember being pushed. Sometimes I remember the fall. Sometimes I think it's just imagined. Sometimes I don't remember anything at all. What I do know is that I opened my eyes to a packed Costco shortly before closing time. Bright white light drifted in from overhead fluorescents. The warm sounds of chattering voices and nervous laughter filled the warehouse. A man appeared in front of my eyes. He held a crying child in one hand and a package of cherries in the other. Seriously? They say it's going to be biblical, man. 10:35. I sprinted towards the door. I can't explain my reaction then, because I didn't know what just happened. My memory of the past 24 hours has been entirely erased. Even still, it was as though a fiber of my being told me to run. It was an instinctual response. Get to the door, get to the car, get home, open your phone. I sprinted towards the checkout line with groceries stuffed into my hands. I caught the familiar brunette with a ponytail at the checkout line. I thought I recognized the elderly man sweeping the floor, and the rude businesswoman yapping over her phone. But that was a faint feeling. I took heed of the store manager telling me to slow it down. I only wanted to make it out into the light. But just before I walked out of the doors into the white wilderness and packed parking lot in front of me, a man grabbed my arm. He looked no older than 45. He wore a short-sleeved office shirt, which seemed strange in this weather, with perfect blonde hair parted down the middle. He held a stack of envelopes, and he eagerly stuffed one of them into my hand. When he spoke, it was with a slow southern drawl and a timid tone I just couldn't place at the time.
"Congratulations, sir. Hath made us kings and priests."
I smiled. Revelations, right? Congratulations on what? He smiled back.
"Stay safe. This next storm could be the last. The good Lord may hit reset. But he'll always need player 1 and player 2 to continue."
I thanked the crazy guy, took his paper, and drove home. There I found 20 new notes and voice messages on my phone. February 5th, 2019, 3:30. This weekend's forecast calls for snow.